A football superstar whose life was cut short after receiving a full-ride scholarship to attend college left his community heartbroken. And the person closest to him could have set him up. Still, you're never sure when the world is filled with jealousy. Hey guys, I'm Leya Nicole. If you're new, welcome. I hope you're staying safe. So today I wanted to talk about Terrance Kelly, who was killed so violently in his community. Terrance T.K. Kelly was a 18-year-old from Richmond, California. He was raised by his grandmother, Bevelyn, and his father, Larry. He also had a stepbrother, Brandon, and his dad's girlfriend, who he was living with at the time. Terrance was described to be very grounded and driven. Terrance learned to play sports at a very young age. He often played football, baseball, basketball, all in his grandma's backyard. So he grew up loving sports. Terrance attended De La Salle High School, and back in 2004, De La Salle was the #1 football team in the country and had an undefeated record. So Terrance was their star player and was very well known. During their final game of the season, Terrance scored 3 touchdowns, literally securing the national championship. No one was really surprised when Terrance received tons of scholarship offers because he was that good. He was receiving tons of Division I scholarships, but one stood out to Terrance. He wanted to attend the University of Oregon, which wasn't too far from his grandma and dad. So when Terrance finally graduated from high school in 2004, he went to the University of Oregon to participate in the summer football workouts. But first, I want to say a huge thank you to June's Journey for sponsoring today's video. June's Journey is a hidden object murder mystery game. You play as Detective June Parker, who is trying to solve the murder of her sister, and along the way, she's unlocking a lot of family secrets. Each new level takes you through an intense, mysterious journey where you have to find as many hidden objects to help you solve a murder. I'm personally a fan of games where it keeps your mind stimulated and you have to solve something. It's a great game if you want to play during your lunch break, or me personally, I enjoy playing when my kids are asleep and I just want to wind down for the night, especially if you're into true crime or mysteries, because I know on this channel we talk about some heavy stuff, so sometimes I just want to enjoy something that's a bit lighthearted and fun. The design of the game is very appealing to your eyes with the colors and art, but most importantly, the storylines are very interesting. You really tap into the world of the 1920s, and every scene you complete, you get closer to solving the case. The best part about this is that it's free. You can download it on Android and iOS, as well as your laptop, and also through Facebook. So if this is something you really want to start playing after this video, go ahead and download it now, June's Journey, and just press the link below in the description box. Again, thank you so much, June Journey, for sponsoring today's video, and let's get straight into today's case. Just 2 days before going away to college, on August 12, 2004, Terrance had come back to California for only a few nights from Oregon to spend time with his family. And actually, while he was away in Oregon, he was actually attending their football training camp. So he was out there for a little bit before he even started his semester, just to, get familiar with his players, his coach, and things like that. So he took the opportunity to come back home before, he was going to go away to college for good. Terrance and his cousin Lanny spoke on the phone, and Terrance told him he was going to go over to pick Lanny up after he picked up his stepbrother Brandon from his girlfriend's house. Around 10:30 p.m., Terrance arrived to pick Brandon up, and Brandon told Terrance he wouldn't be waiting outside for him, but to text him when he got there. And when Terrance pulled up, Brandon heard a gunshot. Terrance was shot 3 times. 2 bullets to his head and 1 to his back. He was pronounced dead at the scene when paramedics arrived. When Richmond police arrived, they stated that Terrance didn't have a weapon on him. So it was very clear to the police that Terrance's murder was premeditated. At the scene, they found a knit skull cap and a bolt-action rifle wrapped up. Terrance's family, of course, was devastated after they found out the news because Terrance was, really close to leaving Richmond and moving on to better and greater things. So for his life to be taken away so soon, it definitely hurt his family and the community that knew him. Terrance's father shared in a news article, quote, "He was almost out of here," as he cried. His plane ticket for college was on his dresser. "We wanted to move to a better place, safer than downtown Richmond. I tried all my life to protect my son from all that. I thought he was safe." Richmond also wasn't really, the softest neighborhood either. Like, there was still some crime and gang activity in Richmond. So one thing Larry tried to do was get Terrance out of there. And if Terrance, traveled to central or north areas, people would say he was off limits because, they looked at Terrance as making it out the hood. He was gonna, branch off and do great things as a star football player. So they didn't really want that gang activity around Terrance. So one thing Larry tried to do with Terrance was be an active father for him and really keep him out of the streets the best way he could. And he tried. He really did. Now, when it was time for police to look into a motive, they heard around that Terrance was a ladies' man and he was messing around with a few girls. So they thought that maybe, his death was a possible love triangle. But that was ruled out. So they started to look into people closest to Terrance, one, being his brother Brandon. Investigators wanted to look into Brandon because he was the last person to talk to Terrance and knew Terrance was on his way to get him from his girlfriend's house. So when investigators took Brandon in for questioning, they didn't hesitate to ask the tough questions like, were you jealous of your brother? Were you often overshadowed and, left in the dark? Like, they really wanted to look into that relationship to see if there was any jealousy among, the two. They soon decided that it would be best if Brandon took a lie detector test. Now, when it was time for Brandon to take the test, he actually failed. It was true that Brandon was jealous of Terrance, and it revealed that their relationship was kind of rocky. Brandon was known at the time to be involved with a street gang. He revealed that two of his friends, Darren, who was 15, and his older brother that was 18 at the time, was actually at the house when Terrance came to pick him up. Brandon also expressed that Darren was the one that was wearing the skull cap found at the house. So investigators, of course, later found out that Terrance knew the Preacher brothers from playing football, and they both were moving towards the gang lifestyle more than sports. Now, Darren had an issue with Terrance because he was a better football player. He had a lot of opportunities coming his way. He was popular. Of course, you have to add that he was also a ladies' man, so all the girls flocked to him. Terrance was that guy. So to Darren, there was jealousy there just brewing inside. So Darren fed off this jealousy towards Terrance, and that jealousy became addicting to where he was willing to take Terrance's life away. Terrance first pulled up to the house to get Brandon. Darren actually wanted to fight Terrance on sight. And Terrance kind of brushed him off. He was just like, you know what, look, I'm not even trying to fight you. I'm just here to pick up my brother. Now, Terrance didn't really like Darren either. In the past, they had a fight at a party prior. So Darren already had this hate towards Terrance. And, he was going to get his lick back no matter what. So Terrance and Darren already had this little beef going on, with each other. So while Terrance was outside, Darren was exchanging a few words with him, and it led to Darren pulling out his gun and shooting Terrance multiple times. Darren, of course, turned himself in 5 days after the murder. At first, he denied being at the murder scene when he was confronted about the skull cap, but police found out that several females living at an apartment complex across the street had given Darren the rifle because they often used that apartment as a holding place for the street gangs. So Darren's fingerprints matched the rifle and he was arrested. This 15-year-old kid killed Terrance and wasted his life away. Darren was treated as an adult and convicted of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to 50 years to life in prison. According to articles, Darren had told a friend of his that, quote, he had to do what he had to do. So I don't know if he was really remorseful for what he did. It's also, though, a bittersweet situation because at least, you know, Terrance's family, they received justice. But Darren is behind bars for the rest of his life and Terrance was killed for no reason. The police do believe till this very day, though, that Brandon, his stepbrother, was somehow involved and had set Terrance up to be killed. So let me know in the comments if you guys feel that way too while learning about this case. 4 years later, though, Brandon was shot and killed after Terrance's death. I also did some research that Terrance's father, Landron, also died after being killed from being in an altercation. The details surrounding his death is pretty unclear, sadly. I wish I knew what really happened, and if y'all do, please comment below. But, you know, after Terrance's death, Landron continued to push forward and actually, you know, help other families who lost loved ones due to gun violence.
After his son was murdered, has also died from violence.
The suspect made his first court appearance today. ABC 7 News reporter Alyssa Harrington spoke with grieving family members.
It's horrible. Horrible.
Johnny Dempsey says it feels like his family is reliving the year 2004 all over again. That's when De La Salle football star Terrance Kelly was shot to death in Richmond, just days before leaving to play at Oregon on scholarship. Now, Terrance's father, Landron, was also killed. Landron turned his grief into activism by launching the TK Youth Foundation. The foundation provides outreach to at-risk youth, empowering them to succeed. Police say 48-year-old Landron was hurt during a fight on February 11th and died in the hospital a few days later. This happened outside a home on the 700 block of Virginia Street. Says Landron was attacked.
He just got sucker punched. His back was turned and he got sucker punched.
Police arrested 49-year-old Kevin Jackson of Vallejo for his murder. Dempsey says, sadly, that's one of Landron's oldest friends. He's not sure why he hit him.
Landron was a pillar in the community. You know, he was out there doing the work. This is the one thing that kept him going, kept him alive, was trying to keep his son alive, his name out there, and more importantly, save kids.
He founded the Terrance Kelly Youth Foundation, inspired by his son, which provides tutoring, mentoring, life skills, workshops, and other programs for children ages 5 to 17. He became a beloved figure in the Richmond community as well. So I was kind of sad to hear that he lost his life as well. I believe Terrance deserved to go to college and play football. And I know there's tons of cases like this where Black men are killed due to gun violence in our neighborhoods. And I feel like that's something that profoundly needs to change. It would be really unfortunate to find out if Brandon, his stepbrother, was really involved with that. And it's sad too to know that Darren, who was only 15 at the time, wasted his whole life away out of just jealousy and envy. Like, that's sad because he was only 15. He was still a kid, you know, so that's devastating. So let's go ahead and definitely continue to pray and uplift the Kelly family. I'm pretty sure Terrance has tons of family members still out there, but I also want to pray for you guys for safety you know, for the people that you have around you, the friends that you keep around you, you know, the family members that you keep around you, because times is getting darker nowadays, guys. Like, you have to really be cautious about who you're with, who you're around, where you're traveling, because not a lot of people cherish life. So Father God, we come together and we pray for the Kelly family. Even though this was years ago, they're still grieving. They're still not only just grieving Terrance's death, but also his father, Landron, who was also a prominent figure in his community as well. I also pray, Father Lord God, just for our black men, our young men, to really just do better in our neighborhoods and our community, because life is something to cherish and not just take away like it's nothing. I also ask you, Lord, to protect our young men that's traveling in our neighborhoods, in our communities. I ask you, Lord, to just keep them safe. Keep our brothers, our uncles, our cousins, our fathers. Keep our family members safe. Like, a lot of us have, you know, male cousins, brothers, where we don't ever want this to happen to our own, you know what I mean? And I definitely believe that when it comes to black men in our communities, yeah, we can definitely talk about how police brutality, they're killing us and things like that, and race and other, you know, things that they do to us. But I feel like we do a lot of things to each other that needs to change and needs to stop. I feel like the way Terrance died, it was pointless. It was for no reason. And then you have Darren, who was only 15 too, you know, threw away his whole life because of what? Because of what? Ego, gang related activity. It's just foolish and it's dumb.
When it's all said and done, though, I mean, I just can't see how any of us here can feel good about why we're gathered here today. When Terrance, who's so well loved and well respected, is taken from us in the prime of his youth by an act so despicable and senseless that it defies all wisdom and comprehension. It's just hard to feel good about anything. In fact, now we are all engaged in a battle. And that battle is difficult and fierce. The enemy, despair. The battle is against anger, hate, and vengeance. The enemy is our broken spirit and our hopelessness. But it's a battle we all must fight. Why? Because Terrance would want us to. And that's what he would do. That much I do know about Terrance. So even though we don't feel good, we still must seek and find good. Even so, we can't help but ask, where is the good in the situation? Well, the good is right here and it's in front of us. Still, the eternal questions of existence gnaw at us. Why Terrance? Why now? Is this what God wanted? How am I to accept this? To ask these questions is natural and a part of our human condition. This is not what we wanted. But to ask these questions is also bold and arrogant, because when we ask them, we are in so many ways questioning the benevolence and wisdom of our God. Let's face it, more often than not, we'd like to admit our choices and our ways are not God's ways. If we are to call ourselves Christians or children of God, then we must trust God and His will for us. Terrance did not belong to us. He belongs to God like we all do. And God wanted him home for a reason that will be fully known to God alone. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that we accept what happened to Terrance. The single act of violence that led to Terrance's death, we can do nothing about. However, for all the reasons that led up to his death, we can do a lot about. The answer is not easy. It will require patience, understanding, and sacrifice. But we owe Terrance that much. He stood for and was way more than just flesh and blood. We need to respond with love and action. Failure to do so would dishonor the memory of Terrance, and thus we fail to learn from his brief but meaningful life. I want to assure everyone here, as I told the team Friday, that Terrance is okay. Do not worry about him. I speak with some authority on this subject. God took care and is taking care of him. Jesus knew this truth. Luke explains in his gospel, when Jesus was carrying his cross on the road to Calvary, he turned to the weeping women of Jerusalem and said, "Weep not for me." He was assuring the women that his future would not have tears of sorrow or despair. Rather, he knew that day he would be one with the loving embrace of the Father. And so it is with Terrance. He has found eternal peace and is in the loving embrace of our Father. What good comes from this painful tragedy? The good starts today with us gathered in this room. Look around. There is nothing but love and good in this room. And the perfect way to carry this forward would be to remember Terrance.